Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. I, of course, am here with the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web that you can get together each day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, talking about what's going on with mortgage rates and pricing, where we've been and where we're going today. Not much to talk about. So, but we got some stuff. We'll get you a little bit. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget, give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let Facebook or YouTube know that you were here. In fact, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Appreciate you doing that. Also, maybe tag an originator friend. Let them know, hey, come watch this. It's pretty good. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, appreciate your comments. Let me hear from you. I know that many of you, this is kind of a one-way communication. I'm talking at you, but I do want to hear from you, and I love hearing from guys like Ron Siegel and Mike Morano and Sean Segaloff and all of y'all that do comment, especially those that comment on a regular basis. So if you would like to be reminded that I'm going live each morning, you can get a text alert at www.hmmr.io/reminder, and or you could use this cool QR code over here. If you're on your phone right now, take a screenshot, come back later, go to that screenshot, go to that photo. The QR code will actually work. So we don't do anything nefarious with your info. We don't sell with your phone number. We don't sell it or do anything like that. So no need to worry about that. Let's go ahead and say hi to the live folks, and then we'll get started this morning. So the first one to say good morning this morning was Megan Bissell. Good morning, Megan. Great to have you here. Julie Lawrence and Angela Walters, thank you for joining. Monica Dinkins, good to see you. Deb Dickinson, so many of y'all that join every day. I appreciate you. You're the ones that keep me doing this so consistently. Karen Lynn Whitaker Eldridge, 4 names. All right. Christy Resort, good morning. Mike Morano, good to see you, sir. Mallory Fotiades, Ron Siegel, good morning. Ron's struggling, y'all. Conflicted. It's National Radio Day. And for those of you that don't know, Ron hosts a daily radio show. He's been doing it for years, and he can give you the details. You can tune in. It's pretty good. It's also Bacon Lovers Day. Where's Segaloff? Gotta love your bacon, baby. I love me some bacon. And don't try to take that turkey crap and tell me that it's bacon. There's only one kind of bacon out there, and that's the pork bacon. Chocolate pecan pie day. That's how I know whether y'all are Yankees or Southerners. When I lived up north, we called it pecans. Now that I'm down here, I've been cultured. It's called pecans. So chocolate pecan pie day, that is one of my wife's favorites as well. So there's a question of the day. Which day are you celebrating today? National Radio Day, Bacon Lovers Day, or chocolate pecan pie day? Let me know in the comments. Good morning, Aaron. Holly Johnson, great to see y'all as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's jump into the good stuff here. Remember, you can also sign up for our daily lock advice email each and every weekday morning at ratelockadvice.com, or use this QR code over here for that. We just give you a no-nonsense look at what's going on. You're free to take this, use it any way you see fit. It's all yours to run with and do with and everything else. So otherwise, let's get into the good stuff. Talk about what we got going on this morning. Let's see. Quick recap of what happened yesterday. I'm going to make this full screen, and let's zoom into this a little bit. And let me refresh the page. Let's fire up a, oops, nope, not that. Here we go. Okay. So yesterday, pricing came out right around 10 a.m.-ish, right here. It looks like there was more movement than there really was on the day. We ended the day basically flat. It was down for just a little bit in the last couple minutes, but not enough to matter. We really did end the day flat on the day. It was really no movement. It was boring. Bonds barely budged. That means rate sheets today, you're seeing just a very slow move worse. So we were at 6.53 back on the 13th. That was last Wednesday, a week ago. And today we're going to be around 6.6. So you're just seeing, here it is, 6.56, 6.58. 6.59, 6.60. I mean, these are such small movements in rate sheet pricing, very, very minimal movements in rate sheet pricing. But it is a slow creep. And it's kind of what I've been saying is there. On the lock advice, I've been pointing out that there's not a huge reason that we have to lock. So, a quick recap of like what happened yesterday and where things were. We were ending the day. We were at plus 5 basis points here, plus 2 basis points at 442. So, the day played out calm as expected, almost no movement the entire day. Remember, if you'd like to get these text alerts, by the way, you can sign up at ratetextalerts.com or use this QR code. They're $5 a month. This is what our text alerts look like, right? So let me put this up the screen a little bit. There you go. So day played out calm as expected, almost no movement the entire day. Nothing changed with the September Fed rate cut outlook. It was still at about an 85% expectation of a Fed rate cut, 85% compared to a week ago where it was 100%. So keep that in mind. Although there isn't great urgency to locking, floating doesn't look overly attractive unless waiting for the September 5th jobs data. And what does that give us? That's about 2 weeks off now. So we've got 2.5 weeks until we get to this September 5th jobs data, and that's going to be the big thing that'll move things. So keep that in mind. It's there's really not much that's going on for that. So otherwise, other things that we've got going on, if we take a look, reprice risk on the day is low. We've got the 20-year bond auction today. That's at 1 p.m. And at 2 p.m., the Fed meeting minutes come out from the Fed's last meeting. Not really a big deal. Shouldn't cause any kind of a stir. We really shouldn't see much movement at all. There's really not much change with anything that's going on there. The outlook for rates and pricing and where we would be is kind of the same as it's been. It's steady until it isn't. So I don't think we're going to see much movement this week. I think, at worst, we're going to see rates that possibly move, just pricing, small rebate pricing moves until we get to Friday. And Friday is when we get Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech. That'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern time, just early enough for markets to react to it and then take the rest of the day off. Still summer in Wall Street, still Hamptons. We got 2 more weeks of that. Labor Day is Monday, September 1st. So that's generally when you see that change. But it's not likely we're going to see rates move this week much, right? We haven't seen it. We're not likely to see it. There's not a huge urgency to lock, but we're seeing just those slow movements here with what's going on and all of that stuff. So, keep that in mind as far as where things are at. Otherwise, some other interesting things that we'll talk about here. Hold on a minute. Let me bring this up. We got Jay Powell and Jay Hull. Like we said, markets are going to be looking not only for what Powell says, but what he doesn't say. And let's kind of hit that one here. So Powell's global peers to cheer for Fed and rebuke to Trump. Well, you can see where some people stand on this, right? Central bankers are gathering in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I wonder the validity of this argument. Let's go through the article together. We'll take a look and see if we're seeing that. So central bankers gathering in Jackson Hole this week for the Fed Reserve's annual conference, prepared to go beyond swapping research papers and savoring mountain views. How many of y'all have been to Jackson Hole, by the way? Let me know in the comments. Give me a 1 if you've been to Jackson Hole or a 2 if you have not. Give me a 1 in the comments if you've been to Jackson Hole or a 2 if you have not. Curious to see how many of you have been to Jackson Hole. It is a really cool place. The Tetons are awesome. In fact, I will show you one of my snowmobile pics of the Teton Mountains here. Let me pull that up while we're chatting. Let's see, that was February. Oh boy, man, I take a lot of pictures. Let's see, I'm going back here. Let me know if you've been there. Was that before they built my barn or after? It had to be right before. There's Mexico. Here we go. All right, so check out, hold on, I will get you an epic. There you go. So check out this epic picture of the Grand Tetons. This is while we were snowmobiling. Here's the snowmobile in the background with the Grand Tetons. So it was way cool. Mike Morano has kind of been there skiing. Karen's not been there. Deb has been there. She said it's a beautiful place. Julia's not. Megan and Taylor have. Angela loves it. It's about 3 hours away from you. Angela, that's awesome. So yeah, there are some wicked, cool, beautiful mountains out there. So anyway, back on track. Central bankers gathering in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, talking about all this stuff. The Fed chair is facing relentless attacks. I actually, even though I would say normally they love to embellish, I got to agree with this one. It really has been pretty rough. Trump has also pledged to replace Powell next year when his term as chair expires with someone more compliant. I don't know why this bothers everybody. They know that Trump is a control freak and thinks that he knows better than everybody. That's him. So the offensive has rattled policymakers from around the world, raising fears that central bank independence, seen as essential to keeping inflation in check, could be undermined. You got to remember, the U.S. economy has so much to do with economies around the world. What we do, how we do it, has a huge effect on other economies around the world. That's why they are so kind of afraid of what's going on here. Among those making the trip, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde, Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey. Expect them to voice their strong support for Powell and warn of the dangers that come when elected officials put pressure on monetary policymakers. Remember, we got fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy is the government manipulating our money. Monetary policy is the Fed manipulating our money, right? Especially if political leaders in more fragile economies feel emboldened by Trump. And that's an interesting take on things, where they're looking at how this, could affect other economies that start to push back on their central banks and the whole idea. So we'll see. But anyway, this article doesn't really get into anything that really matters to us. What's going to matter to us about Powell in Jackson Hole is if what he comes out and says about, these Fed rate cuts. Let me just move this over so it fits in the screen, and we'll talk a little bit more about this part. So right now you could see it's just a small move, but again, we went from up here to now we're down about 83%, down just a couple ticks. This was 15%, and if we'll see, it depends on what time of day, but you can see that here, right here. We were a week ago and a day ago and today, and obviously, I can draw the line, but you see it. Markets are kind of losing ground on the idea of that cut down here. The idea of two cuts of a 50 basis point cut, 225 is what I was thinking, but a 50 basis point cut, that's totally non-existent now. Nothing in this area. Bear with me 1 minute. So again, why does this matter? No, the Fed does not set mortgage rates, but expectations of Fed rate cuts do play a role in where rates are at today. If we get to Friday's meeting and Powell signals that the Fed is going to be slow to make any changes, we could see this drop. And if we do see this drop, I'm going to draw it in red. If we see this drop, that's going to cause rate sheets to get worse. Not tremendously worse. You're not going to see rates jump to 7, but it will cause them to get worse if we do see a drop here, and you would see an increase here. It is very unlikely that Powell signals that there's going to be, definitely be cuts. And he's very, very unlikely to signal that it'll be in a 50 basis point cut. Remember, that is what happened last year before we got those cuts then. So right now, if we take a look, unless we get, that's why there's so much banking on that September 5th jobs data, because unless we see, let me go ahead and get rid of the rest of these. Unless we see really weak jobs data, it's likely that we're going to see this go ahead and, just kind of creep higher over these coming days, and probably end up back either here or, 6 7/8 up here, kind of where we were before. And I don't know that I trust what's going to come from that BLS jobs data. I really don't. I'm very curious. In theory, it shouldn't matter. I know that the Antony has not been confirmed. I couldn't get any data on when he will be confirmed, but either way, it's not going to matter. So, all right, last thing that we got here, a little bit more on the Trump Fed virus, by the way. I found this to be an interesting article. So Mickey Bowman was at a crypto conference yesterday. She was speaking at the Wyoming Blockchain Symposium. Hold on a minute. Let's get rid of that. Let's change the color. She was speaking at the Wyoming Blockchain Symposium. So you would kind of expect, if she's there, kind of her take, but she is calling for a fundamental shift in how regulators approach emerging technologies, signaling a more aggressive embrace of cryptocurrency, blockchain, and artificial intelligence in the traditional banking system. I don't know how I feel about this. Any one of y'all want to chime in? I think that these facilities, these entities, they move too slowly. So I do kind of agree. But one thing that I just can't help but the cynic in me, guess who else is very bullish on crypto? That's right, the president. And it just feels like Mickey is, really putting things out there, like even why she was speaking there, putting things out there to get herself in that limelight. And it talks here. So she serves as the Fed's vice chair for supervision. And, recent development, Congress passing the Genius Act, President signing into law has brought stablecoins to the forefront of many discussions. The legislation established a comprehensive framework for stablecoin regulation. The Fed had talked a little bit, if I remember correctly, or there was talk of the Fed having, a digital currency and controlling a digital currency because they can't control these. So, but we'll see. Donald Trump, who nominated Bowman to the Reserve Board, it talks about here, and here's the other part that I think is relevant. Been named a possible successor to current Fed Chair Jerome Powell. But she did brush aside questions about whether she'd be interested in the job in a Tuesday morning interview with Bloomberg. So I'm kind of curious. I don't know whether to believe the legitimacy of that, or if I think that she's just doing a little pandering. I don't trust anybody in any of these positions. What do you guys think? Morano thinks that we're going to see a 50 basis point cut. You're still all over that 50 basis point cut, Mike? He says we're going to see a 50 basis point cut next week, or not next week, in a couple of weeks, in a few weeks, 9/17, on the September meeting. Mike thinks 50 bips. I don't think 50 bips. If markets swing to a 50 bip cut, then we'll see rate sheets improve a little bit, but it's not likely. And that's why my lock advice kind of has been what it is. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow will likely be more of the same. We can take a look and see if there was anything to talk about in the Fed minutes. Otherwise, there's really not much that's going to happen this week until Friday. So keep that in mind. Hope you all have a fantastic day. And let's take a look at your comments before we bail off. Where we celebrating chocolate pecan day or bacon? Let's see. We've got Holly Johnson, who raises pigs, and you only do it for the bacon. So we know where Holly stands on that one. I'm with you, Holly. Ron's radio show. Tell us more how to find it. Ron, please tell everybody how to find your info. Megan Bissell, bacon. Yeah, I'm going with bacon too. Karen's chocolate pecan. Julie Lawrence, bacon. Y'all are making me hungry. I think I'm going to go make some bacon. Let's see who else we got. The for those of you that joined a little late, the question of the day is what day are we celebrating? Because Ron Siegel told us that we have National Radio Day, Bacon Lovers Day, and Chocolate Pecan Pie Day. So let us know what you're celebrating today of those three. If you had to pick one, and it looks like many of us are going for bacon. Yeah, I'm with you, Siegel, about the crypto. Julie, you also think a 50 basis point cut. Where are y'all coming up with this? I love the discussion. Mike, let me know if y'all want to hop on and talk, and we can talk about it tomorrow because it's a boring ride, so we got something to talk about. Mallory Fotiata, she's going pecan. For those of you asking about Ron's show, ronsiegelradio.tv. I'll leave that up for a little bit. Weekday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, which if we put it in, the world's time, that means 12 p.m. Eastern, because it's Eastern. Eastern runs the world. Brandy's also going with chocolate pecan pie. Y'all with the sweet tooth over bacon? Really? I don't know. So, all right, my friends, I am going to wrap it up for real this time. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you guys tomorrow.